Coming up, the United States has placed sanctions on Chinese officials. And a look at the rally in Atlanta after the Delhi spa shooting. All this and more coming up next. Welcome to WEBN Political Pulse. I'm Benjamin Aliber. We begin with the latest news in politics. The Supreme Court is considering reinstating the death penalty for Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. This comes after justices agreed to hear appeals for death penalty cases. The case presents President Biden with a challenge to his opposition of the death penalty. It is scheduled to be reviewed in the fall. Tsarnaev was convicted of joining his older brother Tamerlan in planting 2 pressure cooker bombs in 2013 that killed 3 people and injured more than 250. The U.S. has announced sanctions against 2 Chinese officials today. The Treasury Department stated that the sanctions are for, quote, serious human rights abuses against Uyghur Muslims, end quote. The European Union, Canada, and the United Kingdom have also imposed sanctions on the same individuals. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken described the Chinese campaign against Uyghur Muslims as a, quote, genocide. We have breaking news. An active shooter is reported at a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado. Law enforcement stated they responded to a report of someone shot in the parking lot area of King's Super's grocery store. Once arriving on scene, a suspect opened fire on them. The suspect allegedly used a long gun, according to sources. There are reports of injuries, but no further details are available at this time. Republican Julia Letlow has won a congressional seat for Louisiana. She took 62% of the vote in the 12A race. Letlow will be taking over the seat of her late husband, Luke Letlow, who was elected but died before being sworn in. The Louisiana Republican is the first woman to represent her state. She boosted the number of women in the House to 31. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement plans to house some undocumented migrant families in hotels. The hotels are located in Texas and Arizona. The plan is to start this in April. The migrant families will be provided with COVID-19 testing, meals, mental health services, on-site security, access to lawyers, and transportation assistance. The move comes as the Biden administration moves away from long-term detention of undocumented immigrants. A diverse crowd of all ages and races gathered at the state capital of Georgia. This comes in a response to the mass shooting on March 13th that took the lives of 8 people, 6 of them being of Asian descent. Similarly, other vigils and rallies were held in response to the events across the country. Robert Aaron Long, a 21-year-old white man, is currently in custody for the murders. Though he has confessed to the killings, no charges have been filed at this time. This is due to the prosecutors not yet establishing the severity of the crime. Now we go to our White House correspondent, Kendall Clark. What's the latest in the White House, Kendall?
Thanks, Benjamin. President Joe Biden has urged Congress to pass the COVID-19 hate crimes legislation. The act seeks to address the increase in discrimination and violence against Asian Americans since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. If passed, the act will increase the Justice Department's oversight of coronavirus-related hate crimes. The advocacy group Stop AAPI Hate released a study detailing almost 4,000 reports of hate incidents against Asian Americans. These happened between 2020 and 2021. The House of Representatives has passed 2 immigration-related bills. Both seek to establish pathways to citizenship for undocumented immigrants. This includes workers in the agriculture sector and those who were brought to the United States unlawfully as children. A bipartisan immigration deal has been complicated by the recent immigration surge at the U.S.-Mexico border. Republicans have seized on this surge to call for harsher immigration enforcement. These bills are not nearly as comprehensive as President Biden's immigration plan, which would establish a path to citizenship for most of the 11 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. 5 White House staffers have been fired for past marijuana use. Even though numerous states have legalized the use of marijuana, it still remains illegal on the federal level. The Biden administration has attempted to bridge this divide by issuing new hiring guidelines. These would not necessarily disqualify individuals with past marijuana use from serving in the White House. Additional staffers have been suspended, asked to resign, or placed in a remote work program. However, numbers provided by the White House illustrate that this issue is not widespread. The annual White House Easter egg roll has been canceled. This is the second time that the event has been canceled as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite a steady vaccine rollout, concerns regarding large gatherings remain. The event typically draws around 30,000 people. The White House Historical Association has released a virtual Easter egg scavenger hunt instead. Commemorative wooden eggs will also be for sale. The White House also plans on sending out 2021 commemorative Easter egg roll eggs to vaccination sites and local hospitals. That's all I have for White House News. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thanks, Kendall. Up next, some organizations have asked Governor Baker to delay the reopening of Massachusetts. Don't go anywhere.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Oh, look, a redhead. Staring contest. You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
You're watching WEBN News.
Hello. 29 organizations have asked Governor Charlie Baker to delay the further reopening of Massachusetts by at least 1 month. On Monday, Massachusetts will move to the next phase, which allows sporting venues to open at 12% capacity. The organizations have asked this over concern of a 4th wave. As of today, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts will begin the first step of Phase 4. A mask mandate still remains in place in the state for both outdoors and indoor spaces. More than 1 million Massachusetts residents have been fully vaccinated. The state has administered 2.7 million total doses, including nearly 1.7 million first doses. As of Thursday, the death toll in Massachusetts stands at 16,426 and has amounted more than 574,000 cases. There have been less than 600 new hospitalizations due to COVID as of March 18th. Republican lawmakers in Arizona are pushing new laws to limit mail-in voting ballots. 22 bills have been introduced. One of them, if passed, would allow the state to ignore and override presidential election results. Other bills that are proposed would make it significantly harder to vote by mail and add more precautionary measures to be able to enter the vote. The Education Department announced it will fully forgive loans of those who borrowed from schools who, quote, enlisted in misconduct, end quote. with a new plan to forgive borrowers. An estimated 72,000 people could receive up to $1 billion. The Department of Education has a steep hill to climb in terms of forgiveness after the setbacks and cuts from former Education Secretary Director Betsy DeVos. The department has released a statement saying borrowers with claims approved will be ensured a, quote, streamlined path to receiving full loan discharges, end quote again. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is facing another allegation of sexual assault. Alyssa McGrath told the New York Times that Cuomo, quote, stared inappropriately at her body and commented on her looks, end quote. This brings the number of accusers to 9. Cuomo is consistently getting pressure to resign after multiple women have come forward with allegations. He has rejected these calls to resign and continued to deny the allegations, referring to them as misunderstandings. For more intel on Governor Andrew Cuomo and the allegations against him, we go to our political analyst, Sydney Cohen. What do you have for us, Sydney?
Thank you, Benjamin. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo continues to defend himself and his job as sexual harassment allegations continue to come out. Since the coronavirus pandemic breakout in March of 2020, Cuomo continues to be praised for how he handled the virus. Compared to other governors in other states, Cuomo has implemented many rules and regulations in order to prevent people from contracting the virus, especially since New York was one of the most infected states when the virus first broke out. Now, the governor is in the media for an entirely different reason. Cuomo has received several sexual assault allegations against him, resulting in many politicians urging him to step down from his position. As of now, 9 women have come forward about being sexually harassed and experiencing inappropriate behavior from Cuomo. What does this mean for Cuomo? State Attorney General Letitia James announced on March 1st that she is going to open an investigation surrounding the accusation made towards him. Following this, Cuomo has apologized for acting, quote, in a way that made people feel uncomfortable, quote. This was for his victims. Former governor aide Charlotte Bennett was the first victim to come out about being sexually harassed. Bennett has stated that Cuomo had asked her several times about her romantic relationships and even implied that he wanted to sleep with her. After reporting Cuomo to a special counselor in November, she was transferred and her allegations haven't been spoken about until recently. Prior to Bennett, his prior aide, Lindsey Boland, left Cuomo's office in 2018 after accusing Cuomo of kissing her on the lips. All Cuomo has said about these allegations is his intentions were only good-natured and playful. More allegations seem to come to light every week. As of now, Cuomo refuses to resign. We wait to see what the state Senate comes to agreement on concerning this situation. Back to you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Sydney. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we cover the recent earthquake in Japan and the protests in Israel against the Prime Minister.
Did you know bicyclists are often injured by vehicle doors opening into their path? To prevent hitting a cyclist with a car door, drivers should use their right hand to open the door, which forces them to look back over their shoulders so they can see people approaching on bicycles. Passengers should do the same using their left hands in case someone is riding a bicycle to the right of the vehicle. This simple safety procedure is an important step in keeping our roads safe. Remember, scan the street for wheels and feet.
You're watching WEBN News.
Japan has suffered a 7.2 magnitude earthquake on Saturday evening. This prompted a tsunami warning that was eventually lifted. The earthquake hit just after 6 p.m. and lasted 30 seconds. The earthquake caused power outages in Miyagi Prefecture located north of Fukushima. The earthquake comes a week following the 10-year anniversary of the 2011 earthquake and tsunami that devastated Fukushima. There have been no deaths reported from the event. Thousands of Israelis gathered on Saturday to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The protests occurred outside of Netanyahu's residence. the 9-month-long grassroots protest movement called for Netanyahu's removal from office. They believe Netanyahu shouldn't serve as prime minister while he was on trial for multiple corruption charges. His handling of the coronavirus crisis is also a reason for criticism. Our international news correspondent, Maria Sato, has the latest on the U.S. Defense Secretary's visit to Afghanistan.
Thanks, Benjamin. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin made his first visit to Afghanistan on Sunday. This unannounced trip comes amid questions over how long U.S. troops will remain in the country. Due to difficulties meeting the May 1st deadline, the Biden administration is considering a 6-month extension. The Pentagon chief met with Afghan president and tweeted that he is here to listen and learn. When asked about specific withdrawal dates, the defense chief said the decision is in domain of his boss, President Biden. Turkey's decision to withdraw from a treaty to protect women is receiving backlash from national women groups. The agreement, called the Istanbul Convention, was first signed by Turkey 10 years ago. President Tayyip Erdogan's decision in discontinuing this European treaty on Saturday is causing demonstrations across the country. Women's rights advocates say with the increase in abuse and killing of women in Turkey, this ratification is crucial in defending women from domestic violence and femicide. The Kill the Bill riot in Bristol, England turned violent as thousands of protesters clashed with officers on Sunday. Protesters attacked a police station and set police vehicles on fire. This resulted in 2 police officers seriously injured. The event started as a demonstration against Prime Minister Boris Johnson's policing bill, which can restrict the ability of people to protest peacefully and gives police more power. The Prime Minister said people have the right to protest, but the violence was unacceptable and they should protest peacefully and legally. Brazilian officials are warning of a potential clash between the indigenous Munduruku people and mining prospectors. Federal prosecutors say that the indigenous community is prepared to defend their lands from the armed miners, but is also asking for help. An official in the prosecutor's office said the indigenous people prefer to resolve their conflicts by themselves, but this time they're turning to the public ministry. That's all I have for international news. Back to you, Benjamin.
Many of us are waiting for the chance to travel. Fortunately, for those of us in Massachusetts, we won't have to go far. Recent rankings have Provincetown, Massachusetts ranked as the 10th friendliest town in the country. Expedia.com made this ranking based on travel reviews and the common use of words such as friendly, friendliest, amiable from tourists. Provincetown was the only town to make the top 10 for Massachusetts, but followed after 2 New England towns from Maine, Kennebunkport at number 7 and Ogunquit at number 9. The top 10 friendliest town, according to the list, is Whitefish, Montana. Thank you for watching WEBN Political Pulse. For more information, visit our website, WEBN.TV, and our YouTube channel, WEBN-TV Boston. I'm Benjamin Aliber. Have a good night.